The shepherd and the wild goats. Once there lived a greedy shepherd named Somarajan in a village. He had 50 goats. Every morning he took all of his goats to a jungle for grazing. In the evenings, he took his goats back home. One day, Somarajan went to the jungle as usual. About this time, the winter had already arrived. Somarajan went deeper into the jungle to feed his goats. He was not sure that the winter had already started. He neared the foot of a hill in the jungle. He let his goats wander around to graze freely. He sat on a small rock and watched his goats grazing. When it was time to go home, it started snowing heavily. Somarajan led his goats into a small cave that could be seen on the hillside. Entering the cave, he was surprised to see a lot of wild goats had already occupied it. Even though the inner was not distinct, he knew that all the wild goats were very strong and beautiful. He counted them to be more than 300, though he felt angry at first. But thinking of getting possession of all those goats with his old 50 goats, he forgot himself and wanted to tame them in all the ways possible. Somarajan began to feed the wild goats, neglecting his old ones. He had reserved some hay and fodder for his own goats. He used all those foodstuffs for the new wild goats with a view to taming them. He thought that even though his old goats were starving, they would not die. When the winter was over, they all would get food enough. He was sure that the winter would not last long. Outside the cave, it was still snowing heavily. The snowfall could be heard loudly. Somarajan got that hailstones were also falling down. This had been continued for a week without a break. All nights, Somarajan slept in the cave with the goats. Every time he was in the thought of taking all those wild goats home. One morning, Somarajan woke up early. He did not hear the sound of falling snow or hailstones. A tranquility was prevailing all over. He looked around to see the goats. He saw some of them laying inside. He neared and touched them. All were his own country goats, and they were dead. He could not see even a single trace of the wild goats anywhere around. When the snowfall ended, they all had gone to the deep jungle. Somarajan lost his own goats too with the wild goats. His greediness made him behave improperly.